Commissioner Jameson, if he would, to lead us in prayer. And we'll ask Commissioner Waddell, if he would, to lead us in the pledge.
Time given to improve our lifestyle, help us to go through the day, be with our new president and Congress, that they may do a good job. We pray that we do a good job here today. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all.
Robbie, I guess if you would, go ahead and call the roll, please. Oh.
Sorry, Commissioner Smallridge,
Here.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Fritz, not hearing Commissioner Fritz, Commissioner Creasy,
Present.
Commissioner Jameson, Commissioner Waddell, Commissioner White is not here yet, and Chairman Bow.
Here. The first item on the agenda for today is opening remarks about the proposed 21-22 budget. Before I turn it over to Robbie, I'll just say that it seems to me this will be a little bit easier project than what we've had a couple of years ago and in the past. I want to thank all the department heads and officials who have taken the time to look at their budget and try to fine tune it as best that they can. And I know that that's not always an easy task to provide the services to the people of our county that they deserve at the same time with the amount of money that we have. So I want to take just a minute to thank everybody for the efforts they put in to try to accomplish that. With that being said, I'll turn it over to the finance director.
We have 4 speakers today with the mayor representing 3 departments. So
Can't hear you, Robbie.
sorry, my microphone's off. We're going to have 4 speakers today. The mayor's going to represent 3 departments. So we have Ann. She has 1 item under new business. So we have a little bit to get to. Quickly, I wanted to explain what was in your budget packet. On page 1, is a summary at a fund level of the 8 budgets that have been submitted to the committee. These are no increase budgets, so the raise isn't in here, and all of these budgets have an excess budget or a surplus, as you can see. So we're in good shape there. Page 2 is the same report, but with increases for salaries in the budget already. And as you can see, all the budgets have an excess or a surplus except 2. EMS has a $6,900 deficit, and the highway department has around $13,500. So that's at a fund level. Pages 3 through 5 gets it to a department level. If you're more interested in a breakdown by department, it shows each department. And column 1 is the original budget for the current year. Column 2 is the amended budget current year, and that has probably changed some since this has went out because of the last budget meeting. And the last 2 columns are proposed budget 1 with no increase and proposed budget 2 with the pay increase. And I will say nothing we're discussing today has been added in the budget yet. So none of these exceptions or any of the increases that are coming before the committee today have been put in the budget. So, and the page 6 is the same thing for the other funds for library, solid waste, EMS, drug control, Channel 95, tourism, and highways. And as you can see, most of these budgets are in really good shape. As Chairman Bell said before I spoke, that we don't have as harder decisions to make this year. We have more money. And actually the property assessment, I went and got a new assessment this week, and it was going to change again, but there were some issues with it. So I will have that before next meeting, and I think it will go up a little bit more. So page 7 is the proposed budgets for the exceptions, for the departments that are coming before you today, like on the first line, County Commission happens to be the first department. And it has the original budget for this year, amended budget, proposed revenues, the no increase budget, and with the increase 1 and 2. So I break it down for each for each budget for you. So that kind of brings us to where we're at today with the budget hearings. And unless you have any questions, that's all I have.
Refresh my memory. Did we not give $1,000 raise? Is that a bonus or is that a
It
raise?
was a one-time payment this year. We did do that, and Commissioner Smallridge made a motion after that to consider putting in the budget for this year. So that's why we have two budgets, one without an increase and one with the $1,000 increase. And Commissioner Fritz has now joined us.
So are we going to propose that? Is that going to come up for today to be proposed for next year?
That will come up. We will vote on that next meeting on the 8th of February. The only thing we're going to vote on today is these exceptions that are coming before you. You're voting to reject them or accept them. And then I'm going to put them in the budget either way. And then we'll have a pretty solid budget 1 and 2 for you to look at next meeting so you can decide what you want to do with those budgets.
What I read, it seems like that there were certain people getting nice raises. Is that correct?
These exceptions today are, they're not following the guidelines. They're different from the guidelines. So that's why they're coming before the budget committee. I believe it's the only way they have to ask for anything like that is to come before the committee. So that is why we have these hearings for that
So
purpose.
the head of the department included this.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I had a question in the same area. Page 2 includes $1,000 that we had talked about. That's, assuming that our funds are there, we will put that'll be in there next year with page 2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, but there is no additional change beyond that $1,000 for the coming year's budget. Is that?
Other than the changes I read off to you last meeting that were for like workers' comp or trustees commission, we had some budget revenue increases in property tax, not increase in the taxes, but in property assessment and situations like that. There was some increases, but it's not the complete same as last year, but it's for the most part, yes.
But no general increase beyond the $1,000. Okay.
You're here
I just
before you
wanted to
today.
be sure.
There was. Yes.
Just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Fritz.
so basically everything that's beyond our control is included in the budget. I mean, things that's outside our control, such as workers' comp and insurance and things, all that stuff like that we have no control on, has to be included in the budget regardless. And so that stuff has to be listed. But then things outside of that, then that's what's going to be coming before us.
Sometimes there's benefit changes. Somebody might take, check significantly if that happens. So those are changes that we don't control or y'all can't control that we have to pay for. So that's all that is in the budget. Yes.
Further questions? Not hearing none, we will continue on. I will say this before we get started. The agenda has each presenter listed for approximately 15 minutes. I don't think any of us would get too upset if we wind up going over 15 minutes each, especially if we have questions and you all are giving us answers. But let's try as best we can to keep it within the 15-minute mark. It'd be greatly appreciated. County Clerk Jeff Cole, go ahead, sir.
I come before you guys and gals with a question. I put Kim, who is doing the minutes now, is not wanting to do them anymore. She's got some personal stuff, and I'm moving her into a different realm under my budget. So I am trying to see, Annette has agreed to do the minutes for an extra $3,500. that's in the commission's budget. I don't have any money or deal with that budget other than I do look at it, but it's y'all's ultimate call every year, just like it should be. So my question is, I don't know how we can fund this. I don't have it in my budget on my side for the clerk side. And Chuck will remember, and the ones that have been here a little longer, when Annette come up, or when that position come up under my advisement, I guess, to do the everyday sign off on time cards and things like that, vacation, sick time. We left it as y'all still had your budget because I didn't want to commingle my budget with y'all's budget. So the question is, Annette's willing to do this, but we've got to find a way to fund it for her to do it for $3,500 is what I think she put in the budget for this year. So, I'm all ears to see how we can get it funded. This was the original intent when this position come about and it went under my umbrella, I guess, so to speak, is that eventually we would move the commission secretary into doing all the committee minutes as well as the county commission. So this is how this has kind of come about. I think Annette's been here 4 years, I think now, or 5 years. So this is what I'm asking, how to get it funded.
Any questions or comments for the clerk?
I mean, I could talk to Rob. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cole, when Annette came under your supervision, so to speak, and came into this job after the prior deputy clerk left.
Commission secretary. Jerry Murphy.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. Was she doing the job?
She'd had in the past, but she wasn't doing it at the time.
Was her salary inclusive of that
Well,
particular work?
she was making more money than Annette was when she come in. I don't remember the numbers, but this was discussed, when we did this, that eventually we wanted to roll the minutes part into the job description. But as far as the money, Catherine, or Commissioner, I don't remember, to be honest. I don't think it was, but she had prior to, she'd done minutes, I want to think, for 13 years. Matter of fact, she come by this afternoon. She just left my office looking for some minutes. So it was good to see her. But yeah, she's been in the building today for the ones that were married.
Well, my only question, I guess, was then when Annette took on this responsibility as our chief deputy.
It is my responsibility, obviously, for the minutes, but we're a very unique county. There's not a lot of counties that have a commission secretary position. If I'm not mistaken, I want to think there's just about 6. So all this 4 or 5 years ago, Chairman Emmert was the chairman now, and we were kind of told to fix it and make it work. So this was kind of a hodgepodge of trying to make it work. And, we knew these things were going to kind of, change out over the years. And this is just one of the years that it's kind of surfaced to the top.
Her salary is currently $46,606.
I believe that's correct.
And it would be an additional $3,500 to that amount?
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering my question, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Denberg, I can answer one question too. When the previous employee left, it was over 50,000. I looked that up the other day.
That's good to know. Thank you.
I have the budget book. It was 50,984 was the prior.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just to clarify, Jeff, is Annette on salary or is she an hourly employee?
Salary. I mean, I think we get paid hourly, don't they, or?
So she's a salary employee? Hourly, okay. So is doing this job going to incur any more hours? Yes.
Depends how long y'all talk.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is she still gonna get paid 80 hours a pay period?
I'm assuming, I don't
Okay.
think any of that
So
changed.
if it's not adding any hours to her job, I understand she's taking on more responsibility, but we get paid by the hour. So if it's not adding any hours, I don't understand why there's a need for more pay. You're here for 80 hours bi-weekly, and if you can complete all those tasks in an 80-hour period, then you're getting paid to do so. I know the only reason I'm not opposed to it, the only reason I'm saying is there are lots of employees here who take on added responsibilities, and they just fit them into their schedule, per se. They still get 80 hours, they fit them into their schedule, and they get paid no more. Just a thought. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you this, Robbie. Is there any way, since I don't have it on my clerk side in the South 62, is there any way that I could look at my revenue side, raise that 3,500 to be able to offset that with my fees? No, we've done that in years past. It's been a long time, but yeah. See what I'm saying? So it would come out of fees more so than it would.
But regardless, if the 3,500 is approved, she's still just going to be making the same as the previous clerk was making, right?
Well, yeah.
And I know you say Annette's been here for 4 years, but she was
Well,
also,
Annette's been here almost 25.
she was also, right, yeah. Somebody
She's
said
been
4
here
years,
long.
but I just wanted to point out.
Mary was over 30, I think, when she.
Right. I just wanted to point out that
Right.
Annette has been an
Good point.
employee of Anderson
Right.
County for
Thank
a
you.
significant amount of time. She was with the court clerk's office.
Jeff, could you spell out in a little more detail what's involved in taking the minutes? How much
That's a good
time
question.
it takes?
That's a good question. Well, obviously we kind of start on that Wednesday before, going over the agendas and things like that, making sure resolution numbers are, assigned. And then, Monday night's usually when when it all begins. And it just depends, Bob. If it's a quick meeting, obviously I like to kid about that. But if it's a quick meeting, that helps. But it usually takes, 3 or 4 days sometimes. Sometimes it's took up to 5 with the budget stuff coming on. It takes a little longer because you've got to get all those codes, and Robbie's department does a real good job with that, getting us that information and stuff. But it's probably a 3 or 4 day on average every month situation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Dennenberg, go ahead.
thank you. Commissioner Waddell brought up a point that quite frankly, I had not thought of. Maybe I was assuming, and we know what happens when you do that. Has thought been given to changing Annette from hourly to an exempt employee?
What is her job title? Is it not chief deputy?
I believe so.
Yes.
So she's exempt. She doesn't bill
So she-
top hours, do you?
Well, see, that's just it. That's why I was asking, because I thought
Yes.
she was. So why is she signing in on a time card?
All of us do. That is a procedure that all of Anderson County government employees, regardless, unless you're an elected official, all directors, everyone that is exempt, we do complete a time card, all of us. So
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, because I was always an exempt employee, but I never, ever had to do a time card. nor would I have. All right, thank you very much.
Commissioner Fritz, go ahead, sir.
When Mary Murphy was our chief deputy, I was a very, very strong advocate of promoting her for her salaries and the pay adjustments and everything. I strongly support the work that Annette does. She goes far and beyond helping every one of us as commissioners. And this is definitely that only work for her. And it just basically brings her up to what, as Jeff said, and even the mayor said that a previous employee was making. So I strongly recommend that we allow this to move forward and let Annette take over this responsibility and allow her to accept this new responsibility and award her accordingly.
If
Commissioner
that's a
Fritz?
motion, I'll accept it.
I don't know if it was Commissioner Fritz or
That
you.
is a motion.
Commissioner Fritz moves to approve
Hey,
$3,500
Commissioner
increase.
Denenberg.
Commissioner Denenberg has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Commissioner Jameson, go ahead.
I have a question. It may be simple. Does Annette have duties right now?
Yes, she,
Then who will assume those duties?
what do you mean? What she's doing now?
If she takes over, and I'm not opposed to her doing this, if she becomes the recorder, is that what you're talking about?
The minutes
The
taken,
minutes,
yeah.
yes. She's going to be doing that each time the county commission meets.
Right, right.
Okay, like she's here today for this budget meeting. If this was a regular meeting, who would take the job she's doing now if she goes to that?
Oh, I don't know what she's doing now. I mean, you just. Yeah. I think she's just a visitor today, aren't you? Or, yeah.
She what?
She's just a visitor today.
Oh, so in other words, there won't be any, something passed off to somebody else so she can do this job.
Well, also, since she's an exempt employee, she doesn't get paid any extra for working. She would just be required to work extra hours to complete the job, but she wouldn't be paid only what she makes as salary. When I told you she was paid hourly, I wasn't aware she was an exempt employee. We just changed the rules on that probably 6 months ago and added some new employees to that list. So with her being exempt, she doesn't earn comp time, and whatever hours she works over, she just, basically, if she has more duties, it'll probably take her a little longer. She also assumes the charter commission, which she does also, but she does get paid extra for that as an overtime rate because she works over to do that. So it would be included in her salary.
Yeah,
Further questions?
Yes, I have a question or maybe more of a comment than anything. Seems like we've kind of set a precedent in the past, if I remember correctly, when somebody takes on significant added responsibilities, we've, awarded some kind of compensation. And I may be wrong, but that's kind of what I recall. I think this is a significant addition to her responsibilities, and I'm not sure what the compensation should be, but I think it's reasonable to assume there should be some additional compensation for this, picking up this load. It looks like it's quite a bit of work. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion? Jeff, I got a couple of questions. Now, technically, though, she does report to you, right?
Right.
Okay.
But I share that with the chairman.
I understand.
And I think me and you talked about that because, I've got a lot of clerk stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So now that we've established the base that she's a salaried employee, And I've always been, I guess, a little concerned with salaried employees because in the past, not here, but in the past, I've seen the opportunity of salaried employees being worked like borrowed pack mules and working 60, 70, 80 hours and, still getting paid a flat rate. I know the laws may have changed that a little bit, but I know it does happen. I know Annette attends a lot of meetings. I know she's here for commission. I know she's here for charter commission. I know she's here for intergovernmental. Bless her heart, she attends more meetings than a lot of commissioners do. If we're going to say that is a salaried position, do you do anything with her during the week to burn the hours that she works to keep it under a minimal amount? Or is she just, if it's a bad week and there's 2 or 3 meetings in the evening that week, she's just working 60 or 70 hours?
Well, so you're saying, do I oversee that?
Yeah.
Or, well, I mean, yeah, that'd be obviously an issue that we would, we don't want to do that, obviously. But yeah, we'd have to, if it was, we'd have to back up and do something else if that was the case.
And if she's going to spend 2 or 3 days
Right.
writing these minutes, then that certainly would limit the time that she would be allowed to take off to burn whatever hours she accumulated over, I'm assuming.
Right. Well, like I said, we work pretty good with that coming in to make sure we usually do every 45 days. I know on my clerk side, we make sure we've got all this stuff in and stuff like that. But she's not going to lose time if that's your question. No, we'll make darn sure that she does it.
I was just trying to balance that out in my mind with the salary increase versus a salaried employee.
Right, I understand.
It could really go either way.
It
But
could.
in the past, I've seen it benefit the employer
Right.
a lot more than
Right.
it benefited the employee.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any further questions or comments? All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve it. We have a second.
Chairman?
Commissioner Fritz.
Just a little bit more background to it. When the position of the chief deputy or the secretary of, I think it was identified as secretary at first, was established many years ago, it was established and assigned to the county commission. And basically, whoever the chairman was, they reported to the chairman of the county commission. Several years ago, the question arose to whether or not the secretary or the chief deputy could report to the county commission. And so at that time, the chief deputy was moved to the county, oversight of the chief deputy was moved to the county clerk's office to remove that question. But she would still provide the services to the county commission. And so that was where it started, and that's how she ended up with the county clerk. And so that just gives you a little history behind where it started and where she ended up.
Rich. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Robbie, call the roll, please.
Aldridge,
Commissioner Small.
Bob, unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Aye.
thank you. Commissioner Denenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Fritz, Commissioner Creasy,
Tracy votes aye.
Mr. Jameson,
Aye.
Commissioner Waddell, Commissioner White, Commissioner Val.
Aye. Motion carries.
Next up, we have the HR department with Kim Jeffers Whitaker. Also on your pages, if you look at page 14, 15, and 16 in your, no, that's, I'm sorry. Take that back, 11, 12, and 13, that pertains to HR and this increase. So I've added some pages for each department, so that's what I put in the agenda. And Kim has additional stuff she has sent you also, but she's up.
Whitaker, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. I sent out an email today because I knew some of you would be joining virtually that has the handout that I just gave everyone here. The first few sheets is what is in your packet, just hopefully helping to guide a little bit. The last two has the items that has been requested since I sent out my email to you all once Robbie set the budget meetings. The first page lists the additional duties that I have taken on since becoming the director. There's an additional 5 of those, and then the additional certifications since becoming the director. I had some prior to this, but that's what's happened since I was named director in 2017-18. Does anybody have any questions on those? Everybody fine? I think for those of you that are here, there's a little yellow tab, and that's where I'm starting at, up at the top. Okay. And then moving the needle forward, talks about since 2017, the items that the HR department has put in place since I become the director. Down at the bottom, I've bolded 10, 11, 12, and those are focusing on 3 key metrics that was requested by county commissioners and elected officials once I become the director. And those are the ones that I'm going to go over today because it's also the ones that as the HR director that I'm probably most proud of. Number 10 says that we have tripled partnership collaborations with our department heads. And what that means is since I become the director, we have more than tripled the amount of assistance that we're given to the elected officials. Recruiting, placement, retainage, awareness has doubled. We have doubled our amount of help that we're given to departments and their ability to recruit and retain. And we also, this is the one that I really like, building employee relations. You know, building trust takes time, and since becoming the director, the employee relations has quadrupled since 2017, and that's the help that we've been given to the staff. And I think that those data points speaks to our growth as the HR department as a whole. The second page, the other key metric that is often mentioned by budget and commission, as it should be, is savings. What have we done to create savings? And as y'all know, we're not a fee office. We don't take in money. So the things that I would point out is that since becoming the director, I have decreased HR's budget by $12,000, $12,633 since 2017. I know that probably doesn't seem like a lot to some departments, but we're a very small department with a very small budget. And every year we have decreased our budget by $12,633. And by the way, that is less than what is being asked of you today. Collaboration of savings, 1.8 million, and those are in strategic benefit modifications. So as you know, HR is over benefits. So by making strategic moves and adjustments in our benefit plans has saved us $1.8 million, the county. More importantly, it's put $180,000 back in the employee's pocket since 2017. So that is an unseen savings that many of us don't consider when we're talking about raises. The unseen savings. So what does HR do to reduce the county's liability risk? So upon becoming the director, there was numerous applications of federal guidelines that weren't being executed in HR. So that placed the county's liability risk pretty high in these areas. So we implemented internal procedures that helps to regulate those. So, and there's lots of those. I've listed many of them, EEOC, and this isn't all of them by any means. EEOC, Title VI, ADA, Workers' Comp. To give you some idea, under the EEOC, every other year we have to complete a form called an EEO4 that is submitted to the federal government. If you do not fill that out correctly, and it can cost up to $1 million with 5 years of imprisonment. So there's a lot of liability risk that's tied to that. Just on a simple I-9 form for the 500 employees that we have, if we mess up the lines on that, it could cost the county upwards of $100 million. So, I mean, there's a lot of liability risk that lies with HR. So it was important to me that we shored that up, that we made sure that we were meeting those requirements that you all expect us to do, but wasn't being done. The bottom portion of this is government benchmarking as well as and the government benchmarking at the top, that was something that I facilitated back in 2018 when we actually started the analysis procedure. So that was a little old. So I pulled these bottom two charts was pulled today or yesterday, sorry. Government agencies in Clinton, Tennessee, it gives the average salary, and then salary for private sector benchmarking, as you can see, is really high for this role. It was harder to find the task, and you'll also notice under the government benchmarking that I done in 2018, for your departments that actually have HR and risk management, they're usually two different managers, they're two different roles. But for us, we handle both of those. So we pulled them together into one department. So that's kind of what I had to bring forward, and I'm ready for questions.
Questions for the HR director? Commissioner Waddell.
The HR board approved this was this July of last year?
Yes,
Okay, and you brought it to budget and it was denied, correct?
in August
Okay.
of 2020.
Have you thought about taking it back to your board? To talk to them again before you came back?
No, I did not bring it up to them specifically. At our last board meeting, one of the things was discussed at that time was the analysis. It was put forward, it's went through the different processes, and at that time, the analysis in general received approval. That was for everybody's, not just.
Okay, so it was for all of the raises that some have been approved, some have not, correct?
Under
That's what
the
you're talking-
analysis
Yeah.
procedure?
Yeah,
So under the analysis procedure, the majority of those, and I learned today, it was my understanding that 2 of those would be brought before budget. But I was notified today that this was the only one. All of the others during that analysis process was taken care of within their internal budgets. So everybody else had a big enough budget to take care of those increases other than this one.
I'll just read this from the package just in case someone else doesn't have it. It
Okay.
says salary review. Chairman Phil Yeager began discussion on the salary of HR Director Kim Jeffers Whitaker. Jay Yeager made a motion to raise the salary of the HR Director to match that of the other level 12 employees. Motion seconded by Robbie Holbrook, motion carried by unanimous vote. So that's specifically to your raise.
Correct.
Okay.
Because when I was here back in prior budget year, year before this one, I was asked at that time for my board to approve.
Right.
Okay. So that's what that was. That was them approving that.
So there's been some people who wasn't there that have said that they thought this was what they voted on was the approval of the entire thing, which is what you kind of
That was
spoke
my
to. So-
last budget.
Right, there was some
I'm
confusion.
sorry, my last
There's
meeting.
been some confusion on that. So I kind of think that I would like for the HR board to bring this back up. One of the other reasons I'd like for them to do that is because of the members that were absent. There was 5 members absent do that. I don't know why they weren't all there, but I think it'd be good for everybody to get some input on the whole deal.
I would also say that we have Phil Yeager. He's online today. I think he was my
Chairman
chair
at the time.
at that
And
time.
you have a new chairman, right?
And then Ms. Denenberg,
Right, gotcha.
Commissioner Denenberg is online as well. She brought this up specifically. Now, let's backtrack just a little bit, okay? So what I said was at the very last meeting being, Robbie, do you remember when the HR advisory meeting was? March, 1st of March, Ms. Catherine Denenberg called a special called meeting in March. We met then. That was when the analysis as a whole was approved in March of 2021. This was approved back in in July of 2020. So there's no way that there could have been confusion on that. And there was great discussion. I'm sure Robbie can attest to this. He was there. He is the secretary. that there was lengthy discussions about this specific increase. This wasn't in any way tied to anyone else. The meeting prior to that, in prior year, there was discussions on that because we also had an HR advisory subcommittee, okay? It was besides that, it was made up of budget committee members, which are commissioners, as well as HR advisory committee, myself and Robbie. Those committee approved all of them. It all got support by that subcommittee. That vote was brought to the HR advisory, and as a whole, that was supported as well. Then mine was set out separate, and because Phil and Robbie sat down and had a discussion about mine as a separate discussion, just like Robbie and I sat with all of those that still lacked funding or did not have the increases. To be honest, there were some folks that I had a discussion with during the analysis process that once they were made aware of their staff having a lower salary, they increased them immediately. They didn't even make it to the analysis process, okay? So some of those did. Robbie and I sat down with those and went over those. I removed myself from the discussion between Robbie and Phil because I felt like that didn't need to happen. It needed to be between those two. So I removed myself and they had the discussion that day. So then that was brought back and it was specific. So that confusion would not have been tied to that in any way because it simply wasn't discussed that day.
Mr. Chairman, we can't hear what's being said.
Still can't hear.
Wardell makes a motion to send back to HR. Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
So got a second by Commissioner Fritz. Any further discussion?
I'll discuss this a little bit too.
Go ahead.
There's, Commissioner Waddell made the comment there was a lot of maybe some confusion. Me personally, there was no confusion. I was against a total $10,000 increase for anyone at that time. And I personally am still against a $10,000 increase for anyone at this time. A small adjustment for an increase for added benefits. Work is one thing, but a 10,000 is a very, very large adjustment for anyone at this particular time. I would like to see HR maybe talking about maybe potential raises for their employees instead of their self, but a 10,000 for themselves. I just have a very big problem with that. That just don't sit well with me.
I'll speak.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am appalled that we have commissioners that are dancing around and not understanding or at least acknowledging the amount of work and dedication that this woman has given to this county and they're not willing to pay her her worth. This is just ridiculous. And I will not vote for it to go back to HR.
Well, I'll have to respond since that was directed at me particularly. I'm appalled that they were given a significant raise when they took that position. And they're paid to do what they're paid to do.
No, Chuck, that was not aimed at you in particular, no.
All right, thank you both. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to ask.
I'm sorry,
Question.
Smallridge, hang on just a second. Commissioner White, no, I'm sorry. Commissioner White yields to you, Commissioner Smallridge. Go ahead.
Yes, that same statement that Commissioner Waddell mentioned about raising the salary of the HR director to match that of other level 12. Could you speak to that? Is there a big discrepancy at this point? I'd like to hear some comment about that.
I can speak to it, but I believe Robbie can as well. The motion that was made was to simply make it equal. It was for equality pay. And that was, yes, that was the recommendation. Because when it went through the analysis process through the subcommittee, it was determined that there was not equal pay. And with that, that was why it went to my board, and the board approved it at that time with the subcommittee. I would like to also, if I'm allowed, you stated that not asking for staff pay, Commissioner Fritz. When I came to you all in 2019-20 and asked for increases, and you said no, I went back. My 2 employees, since I become the director, one of them has received $7,300 in increases. The other has received $10,000 in an increase. So I have given them, didn't come to you for it, I found it. And still was able to give back to the county $12,000. So that's not true. They were given an increase. My staff have been given increases, and I always fight for them first. It was you, Commissioner Fritz, that asked me back in 2019-20 to come back.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Fritz is correct with his objection. If we could, please, let's try not to voice personally discontents. Continue on, Director.
So that's, I think, did I answer your question, Commissioner Smallridge?
Well, I'm not sure. Is there a discrepancy there between your salary and those of other level 12 supervisors? Is there a
Yes,
significant?
$10,000. I believe it's $10,000 exactly, or at least it was at the time that the increase was approved by my board. But Robbie, I think, can answer the exact difference now.
$10,000, yes.
He stated it was $10,000, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner White, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Kim, I'm not questioning your qualifications at all. I want to, at the bottom of page 1, 10, 11, and 12, you've mentioned the adjectives triple partnership, doubled retainage awareness, and quadrupled employee relations. How did you come up with those triple, doubled, and quadruple numbers?
We count them. We do an analysis, just like you've probably seen them before with IT. They have a ticket system, so it's kind of like our internal ticket system. Now, that means if I have an employee come in that says, Kim, can you do this one thing? That one thing doesn't hit this ticket analysis, okay? So if that's what we're there for. But if there's concerns or there's issues, one good example that I can give is whenever I started working for Anderson County, I could sit the entire day in the office and not have one person darken my door, not one person. And I wasn't the director at that time, but not one person come into HR to ask for help or assistance or get guidance. And we have really put ourselves out there into, with the staff and with the elected officials. If you remember, you and I had a conversation on really striving to create that bond between HR and our elected officials, making sure that we are working together. And we've worked hard on that, and that's what those are about.
Okay.
But we've actually, we do an analysis and we keep up with them.
Thank you.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
We have a current motion on the floor to send it back to the HR committee. If it would be okay, if we could go ahead and vote on that one first. If it fails, we'll take yours. That's okay. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor to send it back to the HR committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I can address something.
Mayor Frank, go ahead, man.
One thing I think that causes a lot of confusion here is really who the HR director reports to. And I reached out to Jay recently about this because this continues to be a point of discussion. And my question is, who is making the recommendations for job performance? As you see today, Kim is here advocating for herself, but who is authorizing that? Who is signing off on scheduled vacations or work? And I think that's where some of the confusion comes from. But I want to provide some context to the statement she's made today. And she did not share those documents with me so that I could review them. But I'm a student of the budget process, and I'm also a student of when we have new hires. And I'll give you as an example, when Pam was the purchasing agent, she had worked her way up over the years. And I think when she left, she was at $59,670. When we hired an interim purchasing agent, and I only did an interim because the county was transitioning to the 81 Act, the particular individual did not have all of the certifications that Pam had. And so I worked with the HR department looking at that and maybe a plan on how to step her back. And so I greatly reduced that salary for that position with the understanding that once certifications were obtained, she could get an increase. If commission chose to hire her under the 81 Act, she would be eligible for those increases. And so if you look, for instance, at this year's budget, the purchasing official it was at $53,408. So you see that there is some accounting for time and for experience and for working your way up the ladder. If you look at other departments, like for instance, you know, I guess my biggest heartburn in trying to be an advocate for all employees to get raises is I look over time how long it takes some individuals to get to a particular position. And one of the things that's being said over and over is about savings. First of all, the global savings that are being discussed here take a partnership, and that is a partnership between the mayor's office, the board of trustees members, county commission, the entire HR department, and many times employees that are active participants. It's not the credit of one particular individual. And in addition, that department began under my tenure at $138,000. And the director earned $54,000 and had certification and credentials and training. She had an assistant who was earning $32,000 and part-time clerical staff that was earning $12,000. In 2017, the HR department requested additional help in the form of 2 full-time staff members. They were granted that. And at that point in time, the HR director's salary was increased to $60,000. Then in 2019, you still had the $60,000 salary plus the 2 full-time staff plus some additional part-time funding. My point in raising all of this is that while there are many times I send our director encouraging words about her very hard work, and there are things that she works very hard on, she was placed in the position without those certifications that she's mentioning to you that we helped invest in her. And she started off at that higher rate. So when I hear the word equality thrown out there, we gave her an advance, if you will, because she did not have the training that prior HR professionals had. And she was started at that floor level of 60,000 and now wants to, in a very short period of time, jump another 10,000. And I just don't think when we're telling people, get trained, take the CTAS courses. And I'll give you another example. I mean, and in the archives department, I did not start the new archivist in at the same salary of Miss Harris because she had the certification, the training. She was our historian. She had 30 years of service. And so I want to provide some context because I think Anderson County has been very supportive of Kim. We're looking at providing additional help. Now, the things that are being said about additional work, there's also been work that has been offloaded. And as an example, the badge system moved with the help of the IT department, moved over to the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department is now managing all badging, all paperwork associated with badging. They're handling the normal HR work that used to be entering those meeting times. HR also came to County Commission and asked for new software. That is NeoGov. NeoGov is work intensive on the employee and department manager side. That was taking some load off of the HR department. It was not adding it to the HR department. And so I just share some of those things when a challenge is being made to equality. I think we have supported Kim. We have supported financing her training. We have supported her needs in terms of IT and remote work. A lot of those things have been supported, and I advocate for continuing to support those. But when I look, for instance, at Nathan, who has been here, he's been 12 years in his role. He has worked for Anderson County government for 19 years. In the first budget year when I came in, my first budget as mayor in 2013, 2014, he was earning $68,808, making him one of the higher level employees. And in this year, his salary is $72,610. And I have talked to Nathan many times about this. I'd love to pay him more. And Nathan's opinion is, Mayor, we're struggling for staff. I can't come up and advocate for an increase when it's my people that need the raise. And I really appreciate that about him. So I wanted to provide context, and I also want to say, even myself, when I came in as mayor, it took me 9 years to make what the prior mayor had made. And I understand it. I'm new. I shouldn't come in as the same amount as that mayor was earning at that particular time. There's something to be said about longevity. And this county has supported HR. Not every county has an HR department. In fact, Putnam County, who's a little bit bigger, I often use when I'm trying to compare us in terms of budget, I try to pick 5 above us and 5 below us. Putnam is right there. We're 76,000, they're 80,000. They don't even have an HR department. They have a director that works with Mayor Porter. She has been in that position since 2004. Her annual salary is $48,800. She works alongside in the mayor's office with someone who handles all of the payroll for 500 full-time staff and roughly 200 part-time employees. And something kind of neat about Putnam County is they receive $600 step increase each July 1, and then they get longevity pay. So each year of service, they get $100 per year. So that's kind of an interesting little add-on. But I just want, and I wouldn't normally be calling someone by name because these are not topics that really should be a name topic. But I appreciate her and I support her But just because I'm not for a $10,000 increase in 1 year does not mean I am anti-equality. I think she was probably mistakenly hired in at $60,000 when she should have received a lower salary and then earned her way up as she earned those certifications and those credentials. Thank you.
Director Whitaker.
If I can respond to some of that, please. What you're looking at and the certification that I spoke to, that was since I become the director. Before I was the director, I came to you all with 30 years of service in government, 30 years. I came to you all and received my APHR, which is your HR certification that the prior, well before I was named director, that the prior directors had. The certification that I have now is a senior HR professional. It is the highest level before you go global. And I don't plan on going out of the country, so I've stopped there. So that's not part of it. And I can't speak to the budget before 2017. I didn't have control over it. That's not something that I can answer to. I can just tell you what I've done since I've been here. Trying to think if there was anything else that was brought up, but saying that I came in as a lesser than the prior is simply not true. I just didn't bring those up.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to send back to the HR committee. Sorry, someone want to speak?
Mr. Chairman, Gary Creasy, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, I had trouble with my computer again, and I didn't have any sound, so I'm dialed in on my cell phone and monitoring the computer, and I think I'm speaking over the computer, but I'm not in the cell phone both. Yeah, I just want to be sure I had that. And the motion, was there a motion to bring her up to the same level as the other level 12 employees?
Right now, the motion on the floor is to refer this back to the HR committee.
That was the only motion.
That's the motion we're getting ready to vote on right now. And then if it fails, I think Commissioner White has another motion to make.
I understand. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion? Commissioner White.
If it goes back to the committee, what are we hoping to accomplish? What do we decide?
So my goal going back was the fact that there was 5 members of that committee that were not there on that particular day. Also, it's just the fact that it's been almost a year since that committee talked about it. I would just like for them to take another look at them as chairman now. There's different members on the committee now, and normally we take recommendations from a committee, but not from a year ago. That's my only thought about it.
And when will they meet? Will they,
You know what, that's a very good question.
May.
May.
We don't meet again until May.
If it took place in May and it was approved again, we could still take this up before the budget.
is that correct?
I could hardly hear what Commissioner Waddell was saying.
I'm sorry, my mic wasn't on. What I was saying, Mr. Smallridge, was the reason I wanted it to go back to HR committee was because there were 5 members missing, one of them being the mayor. Russell Barker, Rex Lynch, Terry Frank, Tim Shelton, and Hal Cousins were all missing from when this vote actually took place in the HR committee. Also, the main reason was because it was a recommendation from almost a year ago. So my thought, and Commissioner White brought up a very valid point. I thought about it earlier, but it slipped my mind, is that if they meet in May and if they approve this raise and it comes back to approve this raise, I will probably be for that raise by what their board's recommendation is. But I would like it to go back to the board. Thank you.
One more thing. He said that,
Just a second. Commissioner White, you done, sir? All right, go ahead.
you said that the parties changed. The only one that has changed is Commissioner Denenberg. We've not, yes. The rest of them have not. We still have the same officials, elected officials. And there's 12, and getting them all there is usually pretty difficult. And I have received support from 2 of those that I spoke to specifically about it after the fact because they weren't there.
So what?
I'm a firm believer in taking committees' recommendations. I think we owe the committees that respect. So I'm not going to support sending it back because this committee has recommended it. But if they meet in May and they see if we have approved this raise and then they object to it, then we still have time to take it out. So just out of respect for the committee's vote, okay?
No on what this committee brought us last year in budget. This was brought to us last year in budget and we voted no. It's all right?
No, that's not right.
I think that's right.
No, it's not. So I brought it in 2019-20, did not have the committee voted on it, had support, but did not have them vote. At 2019-20 was asked for a vote, went through the analysis process, waited for it to be completed because I felt like that was the fair thing to do and the right thing to do, and brought it up after the fact. After my committee had already supported all increases, then mine was brought up in July, and in July is when this body stated that it wanted to wait either till budget year or to see if everybody else got that $1,000 one payment.
I just remember us taking a vote on this. I recall taking a vote on
It was in August
What
2020.
August 4th. Okay, we took a vote August 4th after this had occurred, and the budget committee voted no. So that's all. Because we voted no on it, I just think that the HR committee needs to, relook at it, and if they bring it back, and that's fine. I agree with you. I do support what the committees do, but thank you.
Further discussion? All right, again, remind everybody, the motion on the floor is to send this back to the HR committee. Robbie, call the roll, please.
Okay, Commissioner Smallridge,
I'm going to vote yes. And I'm not opposed necessarily to the recommendation, but I think there's enough discussion and enough question that I want to hear more information before I would vote one way or the other. Thank you.
Commissioner Denenberg,
No.
Commissioner Fritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Creasy,
Creasy vote no.
Commissioner Jameson,
No.
Commissioner Waddell, Commissioner White, and Commissioner Chairman Bell.
Aye. 4-4, motion fails. Are there other motions to be brought forth on this matter?
Did Commissioner White's motion still stand?
I'm looking at him. There is no motion at this time. Any commissioner want to make a motion?
I make a motion to move forward as approved.
Commissioner Denenberg makes a motion to move forward as approved. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Robbie called.
I would just like to ask for clarification, who is going to approve if this passes and there is a raise that's implemented? Who's the signatory official authorizing this?
My resolution states that my chair.
So you're saying that your supervisor is a commissioner?
I'm saying my resolution states that my day-to-day and in the past, anything that has occurred in our office, regardless of that person's status. It's been elected official before. It just happens to be a commissioner at this point, that person is the one who makes those decisions and signs off on those.
Okay, I would like a legal opinion from Jay that that's actually lawful, and my understanding is commission, and Commissioner Fritz just brought this up with relation to Annette. CTAS said that staff, unless it's, for instance, by statute, so under the 81 Act, the director is under the Finance Committee. Under the Private Act, which is law, Jay reports to you all because that's in law. Otherwise, staff cannot report to commission. So I would like some clarification before any of that goes through.
Jay, are you tuning in with us today? Law Director Yeager? Mayor, are you asking that we get a legal clarification prior to this vote, or just clarification before?
Before any raise goes through, I just, again, I don't, there is an exception being made here where there isn't someone who is supervising the performance and authorizing leave and a lot of those things that are required of all the other departments. And so I would just like, before a raise is authorized, I would like some clarification if a county commissioner can authorize the payment of that benefit.
All right, so before I turn it over to Commissioner Waddell, I think the motion here would be to include it in the budget, the upcoming budget. All right, so there would still be time to get that legal clarification if I understand correctly. Commissioner Waddell, go ahead.
So, Mayor, are you saying that because she doesn't have a supervisor, that I'm kind of lost on this, because there's other people that fit into this same category. I think Hal Cousins would be one of them. I mean, if he came asking for a raise, so.
But that's by law. So that's
Okay.
So that's a reporting structure. So that's what I'm saying. If it's not set up by law, so a resolution is not law. And you still have to have a report. So for instance, your conservation board does not report to the mayor. The conservation board is a statutory board. And so from that, that's how that reporting structure is set up, or the parks director. And so you have your board who's authorizing the payment or setting, we've had issues in the past. For instance, I know, I hate to use Commissioner Fritz again, pick on Commissioner Fritz, but he's been in that position where he's had to deal with those particular issues, but that's authorized in statute. So that's what I'm asking here.
Okay.
Is
I think this would be wonderful to discuss in the HR committee also, if there's a question. I don't think that the budget process up here is the appropriate time to discuss that, but I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Waddell. So again, Commissioners, the motion on the floor is to continue to approve this to be considered in the upcoming year's budget. $10,000 increase. Is that correct, Robbie? For the HR director. Any further discussion? Commissioner White, go ahead, sir.
Does Ms. Kim, does she work directly for the mayor?
No, sir, I think that's what the mayor was trying to make the point of, Director Whitaker.
Yeah, it's not just me. You have several of your directors that answer to a board by resolution. You're going to have parks. Your library directors answers to a board. IT, finance, but that's under statute. So you're going to have law director, that's under statute, but you're going to have several of your directors for Anderson County that answers to a board. And we report our day-to-day to that chair. Whoever that chair is elected by that board elects the chair. So you're responding, like for my day-to-day, whether it was Rodney Archer, or it was Commissioner Yeager, or it's Commissioner Denenberg, my day-to-day runs through them, meaning if I'm going to take vacation, Commissioner Denenberg will have to approve that. So there are people that I respond to or I answer to on a daily basis for my day-to-day.
Oh.
She is part of my board.
Part of the board, but
Yes,
as
but
being
she is
mayor,
not the chair of my committee. So like, I don't know, Brian's here. Brian, who's your chair? So Jeff Cole is Brian's chair right at the moment. I think it recently changed. So his day-to-day would have to answer to Jeff Cole is the way that our resolutions. I think Josh Anderson may be chair of Parks. Leon would be one of those folks. I don't know who his chair is right now. But our day-to-day, we talk to those are who we report to, is that chair, rather than me reaching out to all 12 of my board members. That chair carries that load for that time.
I didn't understand.
Okay.
Commissioner White, to give you a little bit of history, sir, I think it used to be the way you're saying. I think it used to report to the mayor. Then I think commission voted by resolution to change that, if my memory serves me correct. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Creasy again.
Commissioner Creasy, go ahead, sir.
Right. You were stating that the motion was to give her a $10,000 raise. I was thinking the motion was to bring her salary up to equal to the other level 12 employees. Am I wrong?
Amount, Commissioner Creasy, it's 10,000.
That was the motion, rather than bring her salary up to the same as the level 12 employee.
Yes.
Just for clarification, Commissioner Creasy, that is called a guidance document. So I have in my office a binder. We don't have, we have gone around and around with this in the HR committee, and I was actually an advocate very early on, and this was when Commissioner White was actually the chairman, when I was going to bring up the city of Oak Ridge had done a salary survey, and the city officials were very kind, shared the RFP. I shared that with our purchasing department. They shared the reports of that. But as we got into a discussion at the HR level, we realized we're not, and this was my stupidity on this really, or state of ignorance at the time. I was thinking that would be good if we could have something where we were all on the same page. But then you look, the sheriff's department is a completely a different animal. They have civil service. EMS has their own plan. And then you have you have many constitutional officers, and by law, they can do what they want to do. They don't have to follow a plan. So the city is so what I'm trying to say is the city is one whole organization. They don't have a register of deeds that has its own constitutional authorities. So what we have in county government is not a mandatory pay level. We have a guidance document. And this was put in, and Jay may have been part of working on that very early on with Kathy Best, actually, I think was the lead on that, who put that together. So just for clarity, we don't have a required, you must earn this. We have a desired, and we have recommendations, and we have minimum and mid and max, but it's a guidance. If you look at the cover, that's what it says, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. And back when Beth was here and we were going through that, I was just getting clarification on the motion. Thank you very much, Mayor Frank.
Commissioner Creasy, Commissioners, the law director has now joined us. Mayor, make sure that I'm wording this correctly. Jay, the question that we have that we'd like clarification on before we vote is if we put the pay raise in the budget for Kim, the fact that she does not report to a specific department head and an elected official who's the chairman of a committee, does that give us any issues, any legal issues? Mayor, did I word that good enough?
Yes, I was just asking about the reporting structure and who is authorized to hire, to authorize pay raises, to authorize leave for the HR department what's that reporting structure? Because as Kim responded, she said she is reporting to a county commissioner. And Jay, as we started off this meeting, we brought up the reason why net is under the clerk's office is because you cannot have a report to a county commissioner unless it's authorized in law or statute. And then some of the boards, for instance, your conservation board, your library board, those are all statutory. So that was the question. Was that reporting structure?
Jay, can you answer that, please?
Yeah, I'll try to. The statute is county personnel policy embodied, county personnel laws embodied in the Tennessee Code. That statute allows the county commission, at the recommendation of the department heads and the county mayor, to adopt personnel policies. Years ago, we formed the HR advisory committee. We looked at the statute and decided there would be a collaborative plan between all the elected officers, the county mayor, and I was on it at that time, and I still am, that we would follow a compensation guide and that would all primarily try to put together a unified personnel policy. That was the goal, though. In fact, the problem was one of the many problems was when there was a legal issue, the first thing I had to look at was which department are we looking at and which personnel policy. So a unified personnel policy, the desire. Tennessee Code annotated allows the department heads or elected officials to put together personnel policies that are approved by the county commission. And at that time, we did that. We decided the best thing to do was to embody that in a resolution. Well, county commission passed a resolution. And at that time, the county mayor was in charge of the day-to-day activities of the HR department. And that there would be an advisory committee that would be the global committee that would be in charge or do recommendations for county personnel matters and work on a uniform county personnel policy. And that was the first undertaking, was to hire an HR director. You remember years ago, we had an insurance manager. Connie Cox was the insurance manager. We all decided, and this was 100% of the elected officials and myself, and including the clerk and master, I believe, and still is, that was the best route to go. We put it before county commission. County commission agreed that was the best route to take in order to get a unified personnel policy. They adopted the resolution, and that's where we've been since. Then I don't know exactly what happened, but they one of the biggest hitches in this, that it became obviously a conflict with state law, was that the day-to-day supervision was moved out from the county mayor. And I'm not sure exactly how that happened. I know that now Ms. Denenberg, Commissioner Denenberg, is the HR committee supervisor, and before that, it was Commissioner Yeager. Both of them have done a fine job. But the way it was originally set up, it would be the county mayor in charge of the day-to-day activities. And that is consistent with a statute in place that says that the county mayor is in charge of all department heads that are outside of these elected fee officials that are not covered by state law or a private act. So we've diverted from that original course by putting a county commissioner in that HR chair position, because the HR reports to the chair for the day-to-day activities. Now, when it comes to policy decisions and things of that nature, we always look to the committee itself to assist with that, and then we bring personnel policies to the county commission. So that is the history, and that is the structure, how it came about. But anyway, I'll be glad to answer additional questions or try to give you additional clarity on this, but that is where we're at today. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Denenberg.
Law Director Yeager, I think one of the questions that the mayor had is who, since Ms. Jeffers Whitaker reports to the head of the HR committee, is that the person that signs off on her raise?
No, that was her raise recommendation came as a result of a unanimous vote at the committee level. Then, of course, that committee cannot give raises. That's simply a recommendation to the county commission. The county commission is the funding body, has to approve these raises. Now, you don't have that power except the ultimate budget power over these fee offices. The fee offices are free to give raises as long as they have the money. And that at times produces some kind of disparity because these other departments, the smaller departments, say veterans, say IT, say HR, those departments are stuck within their budget, their absolute budget. In fact, you can probably look at those, tell what everyone makes in those departments. That's not true in the fee. Most of those are simply grouped together. Now, the sheriff's department is a little bit more itemized by the rank there, but they have the ability to move money around, not come to the county commission and ask for raises. But the smaller departments, they're going to have to come to you and ask for individual raises, and that's how this comes about, where they have to come and ask for money for raises, whereas these larger departments that are fee offices do not. And even in a sense, EMS has some money that they're able to move around and give raises, but that's just absolutely not possible for the smaller offices. They don't have that luxury, so they're stuck with coming through their committee, like the HR committee in this case. Back last year, sometime in 2020, this raise issue came up. There was a vote on it. It was unanimous to give Ms. Jeffers Whitaker a raise that brought her up to what we felt at that time was somewhat competitive in the HR arena in this community, and also brought her up in a sort of a pay parity level with the IT director. They voted on it. They passed it. They sent it, I believe it was last budget cycle. They sent it up to the budget committee, and the budget committee rejected that raise. I believe what's happening today is it's the same issue as back before the budget committee in the during the budget cycle. One of the reasons, and you see this all the time, is when you bring a raise to the budget committee or bring it to the county commission, it's outside of the budget cycle. Then you immediately have concerns by various county commissioners that want to see this in the budget cycle, and I certainly understand that. So this raise is being brought back to you for the new fiscal year 21-22 year during the budget cycle to take care of that concerns. But she's coming to you today with an endorsement by the HR committee for the raise to bring her up. I believe it's about $10,000, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
But that is how that came about, and that's where we're at today. This is the second time I've been back before the budget committee. The first time, again, it was denied, or there was no vote on it. I can't remember what, but I wasn't in attendance that day. This one is back before you today in the budget. Well, we can take care of the concern commissioners that want to see all these raises within the boundaries of the new budget cycle. I certainly understand that. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to approve this $10,000 increase and add it into the upcoming year's budget. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just one point of clarification on the IT director, because this continues to get brought up. I sit on that advisory committee, and that is a supplement. And it was made very clear in that vote that if the work went away, the $10,000 went away. So it is not a raise. It's very similar to what this committee authorized when Danny Phillips was put into the stormwater position, and I asked for an increase, and Commissioner Waddell was actually the one who said, if he stops doing the work, will you take that away? It was made clear that it was for the additional work. So I don't want to mix language here, that one is erased and one is actually a supplement for taking on the phone system. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mayor. I appreciate you bringing that up. That is also what has occurred at the HR level. We put the county commission authorized or actually appointed Ms. Jeffers Whitaker as our public records request coordinator. I can tell you firsthand that takes up a lot of her time. I deal with her on some of these issues, and I know she's asking me about it at least 2 or 3 times a month. She copies on any of them dealing with litigation. She copies me on it. It's quite a burden. It takes up all her time. And that was one of the issues that was discussed at the HR level, that we have now added to her job description a significant duty that's required now in the code. We have to have a public records request coordinator. There's no way around that. That's required under the Open Records Act. And she took the position. The county commission appointed her to that. So it is similar. It is similar to the IT. Now, I'm not taking away anything from Brian. He is an absolutely awesome employee, an awesome person, and he deserves every penny he gets. I promise you that. But it is sort of similar. We had a change in Tennessee code that required us to produce or appoint a public records request coordinator, and Ms. Jeffers Whitaker was appointed that person. So there is additional job duties than actually what we hired her to do. Thank you.
Well, she isn't for all, because Leanne is the public records coordinator for all of the departments, according to the mayor. So we do have 2.
Bobby has a clarification.
Just to be transparent and clear, the IT director's salary is $70,000 plus the $10,000 supplement from the communications code. So it's $80,000 together. I think when the mayor explained it, it made it sound like it was 70, but it's 70 plus 10.
Commissioner's motion on the floor is to send to, she wanted to say something.
Just to clarify, I was going to say what Robbie said. My salary is 60. The other on the 12th level is 70. The additional 10,000 for supplement makes that at 80. The public records request coordinator was not listed on your documentation. I did not include it, and I do not receive a supplement for it.
Now I'm confused. So if this is passed, put in the budget and approved by commission, the salary will go from 60 to 80?
70 to
60 to
70.
70.
Yes, for any type of supplemental, again, that would have to go back to the
Okay.
board. My job description has not
I
been
got you.
approved
I
with
got
that
you.
in there.
All right, I got it. Any further discussions, Commissioner? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Smallridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Fritz,
No.
Commissioner Creasy, Commissioner Jameson,
Aye.
Commissioner Waddell,
No.
Commissioner White, Commissioner Val.
No. Motion passes 5-3.
Pages 14 through 17 in your agenda.
My microphone's off, Commissioners. For the record, that passed 5-3. Next item on the agenda is Brian Young with IT. Go ahead.
And I will bring this up again at full commission.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's good to see you all today. I wanted to start out. I have a issue that I'm trying to get the best resolution to with the matter of Miss Tammy Catron. She came to me a couple of years ago. She's 2 weeks away from her 2 years. She is currently an hourly employee. With all of the activities that are going on in this department due to the COVID matters, due to the meetings, due to the increases of the things that this department is carrying, I would like to get her into a hourly, or from an hourly basis into an exempt status so that I can work with her in hours that are not always standard. In our department, I personally, and this would be more of a help to me. I'm working a lot of hours that are not standard. I'm communicating with Tammy in those hours. She's helping me greatly. I have no pay structure to do that. I'm currently building up quite a few comp hours with her, and I've talked to Robbie and discussed the best way to probably handle this. I know that they've, working with Kim as well, some of the things that were changed to be able to allow exempt, because used to it was like 40,000, I think, had to be the limit or something to be an exempt. I may be wrong, but what I believe now is that we can do it with a $3,601 increase, $3,601 increase to her salary. Tammy has a bachelor's in business management. She is currently supervising my staff over the last.
By Commissioner White to approve the request, seconded by Commissioner Jameson. Any questions by commission? Hearing none. Robbie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Smallridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Fritz, Commissioner Creasy, Commissioner Jameson, Commissioner Waddell, Commissioner White, Commissioner Val.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
You. Next item on the agenda, Commissioners, is Mayor Frank, Animal Control.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is just, I felt like I needed to ask because I've had comments from people in the position of the full-time shelter worker. And I just am bringing to you for your consideration an increase of $2 per hour in that position from $12 to $14 an hour. It is a full-time position, but it is a very demanding position and does involve a lot of multitasking with the public, with the animals, and then also, with the stress of actually we are not a no-kill shelter. So I think that does kind of weigh a lot of burden on the staff there. So.
Makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Fritz, were you going to second that? I saw your hand.
Question?
Okay, hang on just a second. Commissioner Jameson, I believe, seconded the motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Fritz, go ahead, sir.
How many employees do we have that works for the county that makes less than $15 an hour?
I do not.
So whenever I sent you all an email as we were discussing budget year, and we had that discussion in regards to, and I think it was actually Commissioner Waddell that asked that I look at the proposed $15 increase. It's around, and you have to understand we have a high turnover rate, so that does fluctuate. but it's around, I believe, 130. That is under $15.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Waddell?
Just to clarify, you're asking for $2 an hour raise for how many employees? 20 employees? Okay. So,
We have part-time staff that earns 10. So, but that particular position, it's just, I mean, they're really a shelter manager, but you know, I felt like I had a duty to ask. You know, I've had prior employees ask, and it is very demanding. And our officers earn 15. So
I get it. I guess my only thought is there's probably, how many did you say, Kim? 100? It's over 100. So there's
Yes.
100 other people that work at the county that also feel the same. So I really don't like to single any one group out or one department out. I mean, you know, there's a lot of other employees that also would need a $2 an hour raise to be fair, to be equal across the board, which is what we're trying to accomplish up here. I don't think that's a good idea that we look at them one at a time and do that. We either need to do it across the board and bring everybody up to a certain level, or we need to leave them where they're at. So I'll be a no. Thank you.
Discussion, Commissioner James?
Can't very well do that because different jobs require different skills. Also, some have more experience. You just can't say, put a blanket over everybody and say, we're going to give this. It doesn't work.
Further?
Respond. There are a lot more. There's of course different skill sets, but there may be some with a higher skill set that's making that deserve that $2 an hour raise. So that's all I'm asking is that if we're gonna start doing this, we need to look at everybody instead of just because the mayor or just because, you know, Jeff or someone brings it to our attention. We need to look across the board instead of just doing one at a time. You know, somebody may deserve the same amount of raise, but their director or whoever may just not bring it. So then we have inequalities across, if a percentage raise passed in years to come, it just continues to separate those people.
and I completely understand that, Commissioner. In this particular position, the individual that, or what we're trying to do there is we have someone who does have veterinary experience and can do the vetting. And so it does end up being cost savings for the county to have someone who has those qualifications. So that's the only reason I was making the effort, because I really don't like to step outside of exactly what you're talking about there. I'm really sensitive to that.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Pruitt?
Things like this is what I was talking about, you know. We got some small steps we can take to benefit a lot of people, or we can make a major contribution to help one person. And so we just gave 10,000 to help one person, where we could give small amounts to help many people. So, I mean, that's where I have major problems. You know, how do we benefit one or do we benefit a lot? And I just have problems on a lot of things we do and don't do.
Commissioner Fritz, any further discussion? Hearing none, Robbie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Smallridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Fritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Creasy,
Aye.
Commissioner Jameson,
Aye.
Commissioner Waddell,
No.
Commissioner White, Commissioner Val.
Motion passes. Next item is Mayor Frank, Cherie Phillips Senior Center.
And 3 is online here also to be able to answer any questions. So what I'm asking here is either for a full-time position or a part-time position of up to 30 hours per week for the senior program. Specifically, my proposal is to hire a position that would be an activity director. I included both of Cherie's job descriptions, and they're separated that way because we have requirements to report the data under the Office on Aging, and part of our funding is associated with those grant duties. And so both of those job descriptions are actually hers. I don't want you to create any confusion. But last year, we had reduced the budget in order to make that contribution to pay overtime for the senior center. And so our budget was reduced to help make that happen. But also last year, there was part-time funding that was reduced by $25,663. And I don't know if it was, that was obviously in addition to what was required to pay off the building. And so this year, we're just coming back. And in the past, she had used those part-time funds for folks to help at the center or to help with food or some of those things. But what we're talking about here is using the funds to be a true activities director and pull some of those duties out of the job description, just with the new and improved facility and more demand for programming. I have just like a sample of what that person would do. So they would be instrumental in coordinating the schedules, managing and creating the activities and events, maintaining the equipment and rooms for the activities. They would be instrumental in the creation and programming of both recreational and therapeutic activities for older adults. Then they could also create promotional materials for the programming, assist in conducting surveys and or need assessments, and then they can assist in weekly reporting to the mayor and also county commission if you so desire. And I have what those 2 proposals are, if you are willing to entertain either one of them. One is just a part-time only. That is what the annual cost would be. And then there's the full-time, but of course, full-time would, if a person chose benefits, that would be an additional cost. Currently, Anderson County Senior.
Make a motion, we approve the part-time position.
Commissioner White makes a motion that we approve the part-time position. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Second was Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion?
Yes, the mayor wasn't finished. I was very interested in her comments explaining the duties, and I'd like for her to continue. And I think that's very commendable, that position that she's going to hire. And I certainly hope that we advertise that in our news, and because we have a lot of seniors that would fit that description so far, retirees, both here in Oak Ridge and Clinton and throughout Anderson County. That'd be a very good position for someone recently retired looking to stay busy. Very good, Mayor.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Creasy. Well, I was actually just wrapping up with what the county currently contributes in the budget. So we actually receive, I just wanted commissioners to know, of the $89,919 budget, the county received $68,321 in grant funding. So currently that is 21,598 that we are expending in tax funding locally for programs. So this would be an increase of whatever that amount is that you chose. And so as Commissioner White just made the motion, an increase of another 21,000. So I just wanted you to understand the contribution portion.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion?
Could I ask, oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm assuming that this position would, from your description here, would focus on additional new programming activities, and that would be the thrust. And we would see as a result of this position, and Ms. Phillips not having time to do it, but we would see a big increase, hopefully, in the programs and the activities offered to our seniors. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir, that is entirely fair. In fact, we have a lot of demand from everything from music classes to woodworking. We've got interest from quilting. And then there's a lot of programming that the state and federal government would like us to do in terms of education. A lot of classroom type programming that Cherie was not able to do at the other facility because of sound. They're all in that same room. So yes, sir. In fact, when I dropped by the center to monitor the progress of the renovations, I mean, seniors are they're constantly, Cherie can say this too, they're constantly pulling in, just excited about when we're going to open and when they can get in there and do things and do programming. So yes, and that's what I was picturing here too, is that we could do, I mean, a lot of times it's being on the hamster wheel and not being able to get off and do that reporting, but I envision this doing a better job of communicating with you and the public what is going on at the center.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman?
Hang on just a second, Commissioner Denenberg. Commissioner Fritz, go ahead, sir.
With the COVID going on and everything, when do you foresee them being allowed to open the center up and start performing activities?
Okay. Well, I'm getting ready to send an email out to you all regarding the completion of the renovation. So we are actually looking at March 26th, which is a Friday, for you all to come and do a walkthrough and see everything. The Tennessee Office on Aging, am I using the right terminology, Cherie? It's the Aging and Disability. They are recommending looking at April or May. There is not a prohibition. I was at a meeting about a week ago and they covered this topic, but their guidance coming out of that governing organization is that maybe April, and if not May, and that's what their official guidance is. So if we do, I mean, Cherie still has to do the client services and all of that that's required as part of the federal grant. But if we do get open, we'll have to be very cautious about limiting that capacity and limiting the number of people who can be in the room and what particular spaces they can be in until we get through this.
Anything else, Commissioner Fritz? I ask Commissioner Denenberg, go ahead, ma'am.
Mayor, what type of qualifications will you be looking for this part-time individual?
Well, I'll be looking for someone who has some experience in senior services or programming or some kind of related experience. So, I mean, it might be they can have an educational background or entertainment background. I know that a couple of things that we've put out applications for, there have been a lot of really qualified people that have been applying in other areas. So I would assume we would get some really good really good applications.
Well, this one sounds like you might have a little bit of fun.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Further questions? Hearing none, Robbie, call the roll, please.
Bridge.
Aye.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Fritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Creasy,
Tracy votes aye.
Commissioner Jameson, Commissioner Waddell, Commissioner White, Commissioner Val. Commissioner Smallridge, did we get your vote?
I thought you weren't going to let me vote, Robbie. Aye.
I think I asked you and Commissioner Fritz voted yes twice, so I'm not sure.
Thank you, Chuck.
Deal with these virtual meetings, folks. Motion carries 7-1. Next item on the agenda is Mayor Frank with the Fire Commission. Go ahead, Mayor.
Okay. I know this one is a pretty tall ask and a pretty big ask. But this request is coming after, I guess, really 2 years ago, we started meeting and discussing what was happening in fire service. And as you know, even from dealing with EMS and even law enforcement to an extent, the public safety professions are very stretched for applicants. And what is happening in especially the volunteer service is that the number of volunteers or the longevity of service is really becoming a challenge. And so what a lot of the fire chiefs did was we got together and we're discussing how do we tackle this? What can we do? And Roane County has a system where they have full-time paid fire service staff. Well, we don't want to do anything to jeopardize the independence or the authority of the volunteer fire agencies. But what we did discuss was what could we do as a county? How could we help? And so what the chiefs agreed upon was a program, and what is before you reflects their approval. And then this was also unanimously approved at Fire Commission for part-time funds to be made available for dedicated fire personnel. And why we're proposing the part-time funds is so that we could utilize existing certified, trained fire personnel from other agencies, both city or if they're trained and qualified from the county, to be on call during the work hours. And those are the hours that the chiefs themselves identified as where they have the challenges. They're good on volunteers after hours, they're good with volunteers on the weekends, but during the Monday through Friday normal work week, that's when they have a tough time responding. And so what this plan is they would be housed under the EMA department. This was with the agreement of the chiefs. It was all clearly understood. This was their buy-in. They agreed, their idea. It would be housed there. And then during those work hours, they would be available to respond or be first on the scene. The district of the agency, whether it's Norris or Rocky Top or volunteer agency, they are still command on scene. But this does put people on scene, and it does ensure and dedicate response. The fire departments are excited about this. It also is a direct impact on citizens, and having dedicated fire personnel, even if they're part-time, it's still paid. It reflects on your ISO ratings. The other benefit of starting out with part-time is from our discussions, we don't know, is this truly going to work? This gives us, you don't hire someone in only to turn around and it doesn't work. It's a big failure and a flop, and then you've got to let people go. Existing fire personnel, they've still got their full-time jobs. They just lose a little bit of extra work. The other benefit of doing part-time personnel is that the county isn't invested in retirement, in benefits, in any of those other costs of full-time personnel. And then I think that's all I had on why we are recommending the part-time. And this would be available for any department, anyone who wants to participate, though they all do. And we still have yet to develop protocols to finalize the protocols. That was the stage we were working on when COVID hit. So we stopped meeting on those bullet points on what that response manual would look like. But that is the proposal.
Mayor, Commissioner, whatever.
Mayor, I got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
First of all, is this instead of the other proposal that was presented by Commissioner Isbell about paying the fire chiefs? Or is that still something that's being looked at? I had to leave fire commission, so I actually left before this was discussed, so I'm kind of a little behind.
Okay. I think on that particular, that was an idea that Commissioner Isabel shared, and my recollection is I think everyone was going to just kind of think on that and come back to fire commission. If I'm not correct, Chairman Val, wasn't it just kind of a topic and you're going to maybe stew it over? And
I was trying to make my recall kick in as well.
I believe that's
Mayor.
correct.
If I remember correct, I do not think there was a vote.
no.
I think they didn't want, I don't think they wanted they wanted time to discuss price, actual salary. I think that's what it was.
Well, I guess one of my concerns is I'm all for supporting the volunteer fire departments, but we can't do it all. We can't pay fire chiefs. We can't, have part-time people and be buying fire trucks and everything that we would all like to do. So we've got to make some choices on what's most important. So, that's one of my concerns. Is in your figures, is workman's comp included in that? Or would that have to be included in that, even as part-time employees?
Yes. And it would fall under, and I looked at those rates, because they would go into our group. I did look, I can shoot that to you. I can't get to my email while I'm talking to you right now, but that is not a very large cost because we're such a large pool.
Right.
So I had asked about that for all of the volunteer agencies when that question came up about were we insuring the volunteer agencies? And Tom Montgomery let me know that we could not do that because the volunteers are their own independent. But he did say if we did, and he sent that price along, and I just cannot remember it.
Right, I understand. That's one of the things I recall. I believe Aaronsville was talking about that they were not under county workman's comp. So if we employed part-time firemen, then I would guess that they would have to have workman's comp, and that would be an extra expense. Who would be in charge of hiring, firing, and evaluating and all that? Would it
Steve
be EMA?
Payne. Yes, Steve Payne and EMA, and that was all part of even the very first discussion because this could not get off the ground if. And I wanted to make it clear too, as selling the idea that it's not Mayor Frank's program. It's for the fire service, and Steve would be doing that.
So it's two people, is that correct?
Well, it would probably be, what I did included in here was turnout gear, estimated equipment, and I estimated for 5. because you would need 2 people on shift. And in order to keep those, you just don't know where the max, Commissioner Waddell, is 80-hour work week. So however, you just don't know who you're going to have in a week. Does that make sense? You might have 5 different people that are enrolled, but only, 4 work 1 week or 3 if the hours work out. But the cap is at the 80 hours, and that's what the funding proposal is for.
So what would the total be on that as far as price tag?
I included in that calculation the Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment with the wage for the 80 hours. So that's 69,411.
And that's for how many?
69,411.
For one?
No, that's
all.
for all 80 hours for whoever's, that's 80 hours per week over the course of a year.
Okay, and then plus the 35,000 for gear, right?
Yes.
And then plus the workman's comp or whatever else. So where would they be stationed at, or what equipment would they use, or?
Well, and we talked about this. I mean, ideally, they had originally received a surplus fire truck, but so much was required to invest in it that they let that go. I've talked with them. We could look at a surplus if we are able to do something like, for instance, the plan where if we're allowed to use those COVID expenditures on a bulk purchase, hopefully we could get 1 truck, out of that particular plan with those savings. But I did ask, can we start this up? And I asked, the fire folks, if we start it up, can you still do it with your existing equipment with what you have? And the answer was yes. It's still manpower there on the scene.
Right.
But ideally, yes, they would like to have a truck. So, I mean, they have a hazmat truck and they have response trucks. So.
Seems like there's just a lot of questions I have. I just wouldn't be able to support this right now. I also would like to go back to my, to Andersonville, especially Norris, and I know that they're all having financial issues with trying to buy equipment, trying to buy turnout gear, trying to buy, everything that they need. And I just want to make sure that this money is going to help them. It's going to be well spent, because I know they need some money for other equipment right now too. So
I would encourage you to do that.
If we can put it off, that would be great.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion. I'd just like to have some time to talk to them. Like I said, I think we all support the volunteer fire departments, but we know that we only have a certain amount of money, and I want the most bang for our buck. And if our departments need equipment, then I'd rather give them equipment. I want to give them whatever they need. Thank you.
And I would encourage you to talk to them, because they were at all of those planning meetings. So this was, Chief Peters was there. They were all part of asking for this as a way to relieve the stress from their system. So definitely talk to them. They were at Fire Commission and voted for this. So.
Right. I just want to make sure that they understand they can't have everything that we talked about in Fire Commission, because the price tag would be too much. So thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioners, do we have
I
a
make comment. Briefly, can I comment?
motion at this time?
I had a question. With what Congress has just done, passed a $1.9 trillion legislation packet. With quite a bit, as I understand it, there's quite a bit of money in there for state and local communities. Would any of that, if it came about, and of course we got it, there's a lot of ifs there,
Yes.
Would any of this qualify for that COVID money if we got it? You think?
We're still finding out. So yesterday they were still taking questions. They had the comptroller sent out, and Robbie may have forwarded that to you, or he can, or I can. He sent out some guidance. Basically, it's still very early on. There was plain language in the text of the bill, but it just leaves open a whole lot of questions for where the funding can go. So one of the things they, were very specific about water and sewer and broadband, but what does that look like? I mean, from a local government level, we're not in the broadband business. Does that mean we need to engage in grant making? I mean, there's a lot that's left unaddressed, but I believe, Commissioner Smallridge, that anything to do with response, and for instance, we discussed this at Fire Commission, and they did a motion to endorse a request for a bulk purchase of fire trucks for all departments, and that includes the municipalities, if we are eligible with those funds. And that is, and Chairman Val may remember the number, I think was it 3.1 million, which sounds like a huge price tag, but if we're getting 15 million, you actually stretch what you get because you're saving in the bulk purchase. And so I think it was about almost, Commissioner Val, can you recall, is it 37,000 or 40,000 per truck in savings?
I can't remember exactly, but it was somewhere in that neighborhood, but the 3.1 and all that is correct.
Yes. And then you save that annual escalation in cost that the county is committed to. The county is committed to funding each of those departments at an additional 2.5% per year. Real inflation on those trucks is actually been 4.7% per year. So you're saving that inflationary cost. You're putting new trucks across the whole county in every city and in every volunteer agency. And, again, that's something that has a direct benefit back to the taxpayers and insurance, payers by having better fire service. So to me, that's something that makes a lot of sense. Fire Commission, love that. It solved the fire truck resolution for the next 10 years by taking that off the table and puts that funding, it frees up that funding to go back into your annual budget. So I'm hopeful that that is something that they would allow, because to me, it's a win, 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 win for so many different parties.
Mayor, thank you, Commissioner Smallridge. Any further discussion? We still need a motion, I believe.
Tracy makes the motion.
And come back to it a little later, once everybody has an opportunity to go talk to their fire chiefs, and also to give kind of an opportunity to figure out the ins and outs there.
The motion is to postpone until,
What do you want to do?
I made a motion to approve. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Creasy. I think Commissioner Waddell beat you to it, or I recognized him first. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize.
Yeah, I beat him to it, but no one heard me, I guess.
I heard you.
I want to commend the mayor for recognizing the need and then taking action to correct that need in our public safety. That's very commendable. I was very pleased to read that in the budget literature that I got. I'm fully in support of it, and I want to pass that along. And I'm sure that our emergency management director has a lot of experience in handling such items of business, and would be very good to supervise that and make it successful. So you've got a real winning team there, Mayor, and I think with your energy to solve problems that we have and deficiencies, it'll be a successful program.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Mr. Payne is a longtime City of Oak Ridge fireman and also Y-12. So he has a lot of experience in your district, sir.
Yeah, I've known him for 40 years.
Hey, Mayor, would you be agreeable to maybe postpone this, bring this back up? Would you think next month or the month after so that we can speak with Fire Commission and everybody? So we can kind of hash out some of the questions and then, make sure they understand that we can't do everything that we want to, like I said, we want to make sure we give them what they need, the most bang for our buck.
I will always defer to commission. So whatever you all desire, I will say the Fire Commission did unanimously support it. And in fact, Chief Spitzer, who was from Rocky Top, I guess the last conversation I had with him was, you're not giving up on this, are you, Mayor? Because when we had surplus that truck, he thought that the whole idea was going to die. And I assured him no, that I would not give up on this particular effort. So they are for it, but I know we don't have all the details worked out on protocol, but I knew if the budget went in place in July, I needed to go ahead and ask now and not try to bring this up after the passage of a budget. But I'm happy to wait.
Right. And well, while I was here, I also know they were very supportive of, the fire chiefs getting some pay also. So, I don't know if they're counting on that or what they're counting on. My motion is to put it off till next month.
Motion to put off till April, the April meeting? 2 more weeks. April 8th. All right, that's the motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion on the motion?
I'll just say,
I think the mayor's idea is excellent. I'm going to vote against putting it off, but I'll go along with the commission.
All right, so Commissioner Smallridge.
yeah, I was just going to say, by voting for this postponement, I'm certainly think this is something we need to look at very carefully, and I'm hoping we can move ahead with it. Putting it off a month would give us a chance to get a little more information, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Robbie, call the roll, please.
So this would be put off till the next budget meeting, which is April 8th in 2 weeks. Commissioner Smallridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Aye.
thank you. Commissioner Fritz,
No.
Commissioner Creasy,
No.
Commissioner Jameson, Commissioner Waddell, Commissioner White, Commissioner Val.
Aye.
Passes.
Motion carries 6-2.
All right.
Next item on the agenda is old business. Is there any old business come before? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda is new business. Is there any new business come before the committee?
Yes.
Yes. Robbie, go ahead.
The mayor has one item under new
Go ahead,
business that I emailed everybody.
Okay, just as some background, in January of 2019, I put this in your budget, in the letter. You authorized me to work with tourism and then local government officials in both Campbell and Union counties on a feasibility study for a bike trail system within the 3-county region. That was accomplished. TVA underwrote that particular study. And coming out of that, there were many recommendations for how to build upon that and actually take action. Last year, utilizing grant funds, you as commission authorized some marketing materials. And by marketing, I specifically mean signs, branding for the 3-county region, and then also mapping. And Stephanie is online too to talk about this if you have any questions at all. The picture I included with a letter does not do the beauty of, because I didn't have color printer, does not do the beauty justice of that trail system, but those signs are going to be installed. You all will be invited to that particular kickoff. And this is for the area. This is not for Norris, the city. It's for Anderson County. It's for Campbell County, and it's for Union County, and it's to draw people in. The larger goal is connectivity. And as you know, even from our discussions on TDOT and the Edgemore Road, widening our plans there to connect to the Greenway in Oak Ridge, all of the folks in Oak Ridge, the contractors pitched in and assisted with a natural asset plan there. This is more of building upon all of that. And I have in this particular proposal next steps, which are 25,000, and this is for bike racks and then also bike repair stations. And why I didn't just put this in as just a one-time grant request is that I'm really hoping that as a county, we can make a commitment to this and put it in a dedicated fund on an annual basis and continue to build upon it. And if you'll notice in the little packet I put in there for you, in the entire county, we only have one bike shop, and that is on the west end of Oak Ridge. And we don't want to take any business from him. He's a longtime business owner, but there is obviously room for growth in our county. And this is something that directly benefits the people here that pay the taxes. And then it also draws other people. And I put some of the stats in there about outdoor activities and the size of this industry. Consumer spending on outdoor recreation is nearly twice as large as spending on pharmaceuticals, motor vehicles, parts, gasoline and fuel, and household utilities. And so, you know, for a small investment, we can, you know, once a year continue to do things to attract people to our area, but also to provide an amenity for the people that live here every day. So that's my request.
Do we have a motion?
I move for approval.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, as a person that benefits from a trail we have that goes down Emory Valley Road to the marina, all the way over to Edgemore and back up Edgemore. And I walk that pretty much, not the whole thing, but I walk a part of that almost every day. And the number of people that use that and what a draw that is for a community. And I really appreciate the mayor looking at that. And I think it would be a very high value step for the county.
Commissioner Smallridge, any further discussion? Hearing none, Robbie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Smallridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Denenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Fritz, Commissioner Creasy,
Aye.
Commissioner Jameson, Commissioner Waddell. Oh, he's out. Commissioner White, Commissioner Bass.
Aye. Motion carries. Any further new business come before the committee?
I would just like to thank the commissioners. Those are a lot of great new advancements, and I really appreciate your support on it. And these are things, if they pass in the full budget, that you can brag about to your citizens, because they have a real impact on, it's not just these are not just internal government projects. These are external and for the people we serve. So I think it gives you bragging rights.
Absolutely.
Can I ask Robbie, a general question very quickly? I noticed that in the budget, proposed budget, our total revenues were up about $1,600,000, if I'm looking at that correctly, about a 5.5% increase. And I was just wondering, is that kind of normal from year to year, or is that above or below what we typically get in terms of an increase in revenues?
One thing you have to consider too, Commissioner Smallridge, is that we have two or three, maybe 4 new grants that are in the budget. That's revenue that we're increasing revenue with those grants. Some are up to 100,000. But there has been property growth in Anderson County. The property assessor told me it's changing weekly, and I've been going over there quite a bit to get new assessments. And also last year, if you remember, COVID hit right before budget season, and we didn't put sales tax. We didn't increase sales tax. This does have a sales tax increase of almost doubled it, like to 1.5 million from 800,000. So those are the main reasons for the increases in the revenue.
Thank you.
Business come before the committee.
Really quick, I want to say one thing. We meet again April 8th. That's a regular scheduled budget meeting. The budget committee votes to approve or reject proposed budgets except for schools. So I'll have all those ready for you with these changes we've made tonight. And we will need to either vote for them or not against them. So that's what's next.
All right. Any further business? Hearing none, we are adjourned.